Well, everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the Nintendo Switch 2 and compare it against the Steam Deck and see which particular gaming console is the better one for you. Now, the big thing I can definitely tell you is number one, when you're going to go through and basically take a look at both these consoles, they're both a little bit different when it kind of comes down to it. So, in my personal opinion, if you're about to go through and pick up either one of these consoles, you're going to have to remember that between both, they're both very good. You're going to be able to get a lot of good capability between them, but there might be one that's going to be specifically better for you, and that's basically what we're going to take a look at. So, first things first, if you do want to go ahead and pick up either one of these types of consoles, links will be down in the description below. You can get that from there, and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these particular consoles, the Steam Deck or the Steam Deck OLED, depending on which one you're going to do, came out 2022 for the LCD model and 2023 for the OLED model. And the thing here to kind of keep in mind within these types of consoles is that with the Nintendo Switch OLED or the Steam Deck OLED, this was a really good console. A lot of people really appreciated this type of device, and I would say across the board, this is one of those types of consoles that you can kind of go through, pick up, and still have a really good time with it. These things are very fast, they're very important for the most part in terms of capability and just the culture of gaming, because so many people have had such a great time with this type of console. So I feel like from the exterior, this type of device does still hold up very well, right? Again, it's not like the most perfect console of all time, but if you're going to go ahead and pick up a gaming console, I really do think Apple did, or Steam, the company Steam, did a really good job with this type of device when it kind of came down to it. Again, maybe it wasn't perfect, but if you were about to go through and pick up a gaming console, I think this thing was actually a pretty decent idea when it came down to it. Now, one of the big things to keep in mind here too, is that if you are about to go through and pick up a gaming console, you're also going to have to remember that within this type of device, you are getting two different models, an LCD and an OLED version. So that right there I think was a big thing to keep in mind. But other than that, I still feel like these types of gaming consoles were very good when it came down to it. With the Nintendo Switch 2, this is clearly a little bit of a different type of situation that's kind of going on here. So with the Nintendo Switch 2, you're basically able to go through and see that this console is giving you a 7.9-inch LCD panel. So this one's giving you, that type of panel inside of it, which in and of itself is nice. It's nice to be able to go through and pick up these types of, device panels for the most part. You're able to go through and get a pretty good looking console for the most part too, because this thing is a pretty good looking device. With something like the Nintendo Switch 2, this panel itself is also 120 Hertz. That right there can also be a really big advantage for a gaming console depending on which way you're kind of looking at it. So if you do want to go through and pick up a gaming console, you could look at something like the Nintendo Switch 2 and feel like this thing is going to be giving you an overall better type of experience from that side. So that right there, although it's not the biggest deal in the world, could be another one of those big things to keep in mind there from that side as well. So I feel like from that particular perspective, you're probably going to be getting a really good type of console from that type of device when it comes down to it as well. With the Steam Deck, you're getting your standard type of, D-pad and your joysticks on the side. So nothing really changes there. It's essentially more or less the same type of experience with the Nintendo Switch 2, albeit it's a little bit different. The big thing you're going to have to keep in mind here though, with the Nintendo Switch 2, is that with the controllers, these are slightly different. So with the Nintendo Switch 2, you have to remember this type of gaming console has the Joy-Cons next to it. So you have the ability of basically going through and removing the Joy-Cons entirely from your gaming console. That right there allows you to go and play multiplayer games on the go. It's a really cool little thing to kind of throw in there. And I feel like that was a really smart choice. That was one of the smartest things, I'm going to be honest, Nintendo kind of did. Having this portable type of gaming console that can give you that type of experience was something that was super sick. And looking forward, that's something that, these Nintendo Switch 2s also have the capability of doing. Nintendo Switch 2 also has two USB Type-C ports. So that right there is also another super cool thing to have. Having these two USB Type-C ports makes it very easy to connect to other accessories. You can go and use it with other types of devices. And I would probably tell you from that side too, you're definitely going to be able to get a really good type of experience from that type of console when it comes down to it. So I would probably tell you from that side, if you are about to go through and pick up a gaming console, that right there is a really cool feature to have. And I feel like that in and of itself would make me feel much more confident about having those types of extra ports. On the backside, you're essentially getting similar types of experiences here too, because they're both just like, standard types of devices that you'd probably imagine. There's not really anything special going on here for the most part. So I think that is kind of one of those big things to keep in mind. But I would probably tell you that if you are about to go through and pick up a gaming console, something like the Nintendo Switch 2 might be the one that might be giving you more features on the exterior. When it comes down to essentially the power behind both these consoles in the gaming library, you're going to have to remember that with the Nintendo Switch 2, this type of gaming console is really strictly on Nintendo titles. So any games that you can play in terms of like the Nintendo title, you're going to be able to get that experience there for the most part. So nothing really should be super insane there that you haven't already seen before. They're both going to be getting very similar types of experiences here. And I do feel like within this type of device, that is kind of one of those big things to keep in mind there. So from that side in and of itself, that really does make me feel a little bit more confident about owning a device like this. Like, I feel like that in and of itself is a very cool thing, and that once again makes me feel very confident about owning one of these types of gaming consoles. So, albeit it's not perfect, it is a really good type of console when it comes down to it. With the Steam Deck, I would say this one is more powerful, right? This one has the ability of playing like actual PC games if you want to, and that right there can be a really cool thing that you can get to experience inside of that type of gaming console as well. Like, being able to sit there and play these PC level games is actually something that's super awesome. With built-in storage, this is a little bit of a different type of situation too. The Steam Deck had one option that was an SSD and the other ones that weren't. With the Steam Deck, you can get the 512GB option or the 1TB option. You can also get 16GB of RAM on the OLED model. With the Nintendo Switch 2, this one again is a little bit different. This one gives you 256GB of built-in storage, as well as a microSD card slot where you can expand it. Both of them give you that. But with the with the Nintendo Switch 2, you also get 12GB of RAM. So that one doesn't necessarily have the most amount of RAM or the most amount of power here, but it still is like a really good type of console that I'm still a huge fan of. So I feel like if you are about to go through and pick up a Nintendo Switch 2, that thing is still going to be giving you a ton of power and a ton of capability to be able to play these types of games in. And although it's not the main reason why I would recommend buying the Nintendo Switch 2, it's not just the power. I do feel like the power of that gaming console is actually very, very good. And I feel like that is in and of itself a really cool thing to be able to get inside of that console when it comes down to it. So like I said, it's not a perfect type of situation, but I do feel like with that type of gaming console, it is still going to be giving you a really good type of experience. Even though it's not technically faster than the Steam Deck, it still is going to be giving you an awesome experience without a doubt. So to kind of sum it up, what I definitely will tell you is that in my personal opinion, the Nintendo Switch 2 is one of those types of gaming consoles that, I think would probably work better for me. I feel like the games and the titles that are already available on the Switch 2 are very good and is only going to be growing from here. But I feel like if I was more of like a PC gamer, the Steam Deck might be one of the better types of consoles and devices you can basically buy. Like, I genuinely do feel like for a lot of people out there, something like the Nintendo Switch 2, it is a very good console, but the Steam Deck might be better for people's use cases out there. And that's kind of how I feel about it. Now, if you're in the situation where you're looking at these types of gaming consoles and you're probably still okay with it, then you might be okay with either one of these. But if you like Nintendo titles, it might make more sense to buy something like a Nintendo Switch 2. If you like more Steam Deck or PC game titles and you play a lot of Steam, then maybe it makes sense to buy something like the Steam Deck. So in terms of that kind of covers it out there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that'll mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.